So please join me in welcoming our good friend, Jeff Masagatani.
Thank you so much for having me back. It is always a pleasure to be here with you. It is always such a joy and an honor to walk through these doors and see these shining faces, regardless of what the weather is outside. First time I was here, it was raining. Second time, it was snowing. And then I don't remember exactly what it was doing last time, but this time it's raining again. However, it's always a bright and beautiful day right here in Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living. So thank you for having me back. Reverend Marty will be here again next week. He'll be back next week. This week he is down in Phoenix speaking at New Vision Center for Spiritual Living in Phoenix, where Reverend Sally Robbins is the minister, and I know that she's come and visited this community as well. And so you know that they're having a fabulous time down there in Phoenix, and we're having a fabulous time up here in Salt Lake. For those of you that know my partner Ed, he is not here with me this time, so there will be no trips to IKEA this afternoon. He is down at home there in Las Vegas. We're having yet another big event. It always seems like when I come here, we're having a big event down there. But anyway, so he's involved in that event down there. But he does send his love and wishes that he could be here with all of you as well. This month, the community, Reverend Marty, has been working with the book called The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. Raymond Charles Barker was a giant in the early days of Centers for Spiritual Living, religious science of mind. And so the book is The Power of Decision, and the chapter that has been assigned this week, because, Reverend Marty always gives me a topic, or he gives me a title, and he gives me a quote, and says, "Give him heaven, Jeff." And I'm like, okay, don't know what this is going to look like, but all right. So, the chapter is Decide to be Creative. That's the chapter that, and the talk title that he was giving me, and he goes, never let your talk be dictated by the title, but it's always kind of fun to see what we can do with the titles that he gives. So, let's be adventurous and let's be creative and see what unfolds today. The creative process is something that Ernest Holmes, our founder, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, talks about greatly throughout all of his work. He talks about the creative process. And if you have taken classes, or you are currently taking class, or you will be taking class, because each and every one of you will be taking a class, right? You're going to learn about the creative process as Ernest Holmes has taught it. I'm a lifelong learner. I am now in year 2 of what was going to be 4 years of ministerial school. Because I'm a lifelong learner and I love to learn so much, I've decided to extend it 1 more year. So now I'm doing 5 years in school rather than 4. And that's very exciting. And I just love to learn, and I love to teach. And so in our classes, we learn about the creative process, as I mentioned. We learn about the creative process, and the way Ernest Holmes, and the way we talk about it in the basics class that Reverend Marty teaches, and Linda is facilitating the next portion of that, and all of the other classes, is we talk about the creative process, and we use something called the teaching symbol. Many of you have probably seen it. It's a great big circle with a V, and then lines going through. So this great big circle with the V, lines going through, is the creative process. And so the V itself is spirit moving into form and returning to spirit. Spirit, form, spirit. The separation, or the lines that go through, are spirit, soul, or body, is the way that Ernest Holmes talked about it. Nowadays we talk about it more of spirit, mind, body. Mind, body, spirit, right? Wholeness, completeness. So we talk about it as spirit, mind, and body. So we take an idea in the creative process, we ourselves take an idea, which is a seed, if you will, and we have that idea. It moves then into subconscious, or the creative medium, or the law, and then it shows up as form, and then it returns again. And so with the V coming down, and it usually has a little hook on the end, which means then it goes forever and ever in eternal expansion and creation. The great big circle is the all in all. It is the everything. It is infinity. It is all that there is. As we know, God is all that there is, or Spirit, the divine, is all that there is. So Ernest, being the good farm boy from Maine, he liked to equate this creative process with the seed, the soil, and the plant. So we take the seed, which is the idea, we plant it into the soil, which is the creative medium or the law, and then we produce results. We see the result, which is a plant, which is often called a demonstration or a manifestation. So seed, soil, plant. Most of you have heard of seed, soil, plant. You've taken a class, you had to have heard it. Seed, soil, plant, and if you're a practitioner, you absolutely had to write it on your exams. So we know that that's true. Right? Seed, soil, plant. The V, the creative process. And so part of the creative process then allows us to create those things in our lives that we wish to see. Change your thinking, change your life. Ernest Holmes said it, Buddha said it before him, but then Ernest made it popular in modern day, and everybody else has copied Ernest. Okay? All those self-help books, all those self-improvement books on those shelves, they're all copying Ernest in one way or another, except maybe Dr. Laura. But and all's good and all's God. So, right? So we change our thinking, we change our life. We change our thinking, we change our reality, is what Ernest teaches. And so if we don't like what we're seeing in our lives right now, we can create a new reality by changing our thinking about it, by changing our thoughts. If we don't like what we're seeing, just change our thoughts. So, I want a new house. I change my thinking from lack and limitation to, wow, abundance and freedom of what it would be to be in a house, a new house. Same with a car or a relationship. We can change what it is that we wish to experience by changing our thinking about it and allowing it to work the process of the creative process. However, Ernest also tells us that while all thought is creative, but not all thought is creative, thank goodness, right? Because if it were really creative, there are some things that, those little thoughts that kind of flicker through our consciousness. No, please no. Right? So he qualifies it, and he says that all thought is creative according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. All thought is creative according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. In other words, it's done as we believe. Right? It's done as we believe. The master teacher said it, and then Ernest repeated it. And everybody repeats Ernest. So, done as we believe. Right now, I'm teaching a class at our center in Las Vegas. I'm teaching the Igniting Your Life with Bible Wisdom class. For those of you who know me really well in this congregation, you know that me teaching a Bible class is not something that would have ever, never, like Taylor Swift, been on my radar screen or been a possibility or a potentiality. And the fact that I'm teaching a Bible class is like a miracle to me. And my mom still doesn't believe it. She's like, really? You? Okay. But at any rate, I'm teaching this class, and it's really fabulous. And it is about the parables. It's using Irvin Seal's book, Learn to Live. And it's about the parables, and it takes the parables and it breaks it down metaphysically. It breaks it down as to what it means in our language and what it means to us in the creative process and using the law and what it means for our lives. And it's really fascinating and really interesting. So we're working with that, and I've got a great group of students, and we came across the mustard seed recently. And so, again, it's done unto us as we believe. And so after Jesus is on the mountain of transfiguration, he comes down, and there's a man who says, my son is a lunatic, and your disciples can't cure him. Can you please cure him? And Jesus goes, sure, of course. Oh, these people, fine, here you go, and cures the son. And then the disciples will go, well, how come you cured him and we couldn't? And that's when he says, ye of little faith, right? If you had faith as a mustard seed, you would be able to say to this mountain, move, and it would move. Now, most people traditionally hear it as if you had faith of a mustard seed. But of and are completely different, and they have completely different meaning. And he says, have faith as a mustard seed. Big difference. Faith of a mustard seed, if you know a mustard seed, it's really itty-bitty and tiny. So if you have a faith of a mustard seed, you have just a little bit of faith. And you expect big things to happen. Not going to happen, right? Ernest tells us it's as we believe, the conviction, the emotion, the impulse, as we believe. So if we have a little bit of faith, we're going to get a little bit of demonstration, right? Whereas if we have faith as a mustard seed, a seed is organized potential. Everything that it needs to become its full potential is already within the seed itself. It's already there, inside it, just waiting to burst forth and become the mustard plant, or become the mighty oak if you're an acorn, or if it's an acorn. All of it is right there. It has the faith as a mustard seed, as a seed itself, as organized potential. Everything is already there. And it just simply expresses. It doesn't question it. It doesn't go, oh, I don't know if I'm going to grow into a rose bush or a mustard seed or, an acorn. It just knows, and it knows that it knows that it knows that it's going to express, and that it has the potential for full, glorious expression. That's faith as a mustard seed. Not faith of, but faith as a mustard seed. Because each one of us has within us the God seed, the Spirit seed, the divine seed, whatever you want to call that which is greater, that which is the sum of the whole. It's already within. And we simply allow it to be brought forth. That is faith as. That's the as. So whatever we're creating, having faith as that, realizing our God potential, realizing our whole potential, our divine potential, we bring it forth. And it manifests, it demonstrates, if you will. So Ernest likes the farm example. Raymond Charles Barker, however, gives us another example, which is really quite fun. And he gives us this example in this chapter. And he talks about it as an hourglass. That the creative process is like an hourglass. And when I heard this, I immediately thought, like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. And it's true. And sometimes aren't our lives like the soap operas we see on TV? Marlena being possessed by a devil. What was that about all those years ago? I don't know. Or Stefano DiMera, manipulating and controlling and, everything, brainwashing people and giving them new identities and, really? But sometimes our lives definitely feel that way, Or the different relationships, Bo and Hope are together, they're not together, they're not together. Drama, right? Sometimes it definitely feels that way. But what Raymond Charles Barker says with this is that the top bulb of the hourglass is undifferentiated potential. It is that ultimate potentiality, the infinite potentiality. And then where it comes together, that's our consciousness. And so all these ideas, all this potentiality is then filtered through our consciousness and then creates the form at the bottom part of the hourglass. So it is our consciousness that then creates our experience, according to Dr. Barker. Our consciousness creates our experience, or determines our experience. What is our consciousness here? What is it here that I'm thinking? What is it here that I'm believing? What is it here that I'm accepting? How open is the aperture here for all of the God consciousness, the divine consciousness, to move through and into form and into my life? Right? Michael Beckwith talks about the 4 stages of conscious development, also known as the 4 kingdoms of consciousness. So we look at that and it's like, we look at it, this part here of the hourglass, and am I in the victim consciousness? Is everything always happening to me? Is Stefano Demira running my life? Is something always happening to me? Am I the victim? Am I always blaming somebody else? If I'm doing that, there's not a whole lot of sand coming through. There's not a whole lot available to come. There's a lot available, but it can't make its way through if I'm closed off, if I'm in that victim consciousness. Or have I opened my consciousness a little bit? Have I come and have I taken classes and have I experienced spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer? Have I sat with a practitioner? Have I begun to do my work to open up and to feel empowered and to realize that, wait a minute, I have some responsibility here. In fact, I have a lot of responsibility here. And to accept that responsibility and then begin to create and begin to allow it to flow through. Is that where I'm at? That I'm the creator of my life? That I'm creating that which I see around me? Is that what I see? That I'm creating my house or my car or the relationships? Or have I moved yet even further with a little bit more opening and realize, I am creating, but you know what? It's not just me. It's not the little I that has a name and a face that walks around the planet. There's the bigger I that is working through me, coming through this container, if you will, working through me. And I have an open consciousness to allow it to flow through. And I'm co-creating that which I see. And then yet there's another consciousness, the next stage of consciousness, and that's the as consciousness. Is that where I'm living? Where I've surrendered and I allow and I experience life in a whole new way. Because it really doesn't matter. The hourglass is still there. The potentiality is there. But how big is the aperture through which spirit can move into form, into your everyday life, into your everyday experience? Raymond Charles Barker says, ideas stand at the filtering point of your consciousness, waiting for your clarity. Consciousness waits for the open mind through which it can flow. So it waits for the open mind. So another parable that we've studied recently is the parable of the sower, where a sower, is going out and he's spreading seed he's just spreading seed. And some of it falls on the wayside road, and which is hard and trampled and well-trodden, and birds come and eat it and take it away, and it stands no chance of ever growing. And then there's the next one where it falls into rocky soil, where it takes root for a little bit and perhaps grows, and then the sun withers and dies, or the wind pulls it and uproots it. And then there is the soil with the thorns. It's fertile soil, something is growing in it, but thorns are growing it. And then there's finally the really rich soil. So each of these is also a state of consciousness. Each of these is also the way our minds work. Am I the wayward soil over here, holding on tight, that no new ideas, nothing from spirit can get through, or very little can get through? Have I opened a little bit? And wow, this seems like a really great idea, and I really like this, and wow, this is really cool. And then, I have all these great ideas and ideals, but I'm not doing the practice, and I'm not participating, and all of a sudden, there it goes. Or am I over here, and I've opened up, and there's what is coming through is being choked by negative thoughts, or ideas, or fear, or lack, or limitation. Is that where my mind is? Or is my mind over here in the fertile ground, open and available for consciousness, for spirit, for the divine, to plant and grow and express? Where am I at? It doesn't really matter. It does, but it doesn't. Because it's all the same. It's how big your opening is the experience. Little, bigger. So again, we change our thinking, we change our thoughts, we change our reality. And Raymond Charles Barker writes, we are a becoming people. We are a growth people. We are expanding people. We are made in the image and likeness of the infinite. Always, its action in us is constant, seeking expression by means of us. So there is that within us, which is the God seed, if you will, the divine seed. Because we are spiritual beings not having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience here. We are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. That's a big shift. A big shift. Because there is that within us, the divine within us, that is moving forth, that is always wanting to expand, but are we allowing it to? Are we clearing our mind? Are we clearing the field? And are we allowing it to? We have a choice here to decide to be creative, and we can absolutely be creative and create financial wealth and create physical health, and we can create, houses and cars and princess palaces and parking lots, or parking spots and parking lots. We have that choice to do that, to be creative in that way. But we can also use the same law, the same idea, the same principle to create and cultivate our relationship with the divine. To turn within and practice spiritual principle and do spiritual practice, and turn within and allow that which is already within us freedom, to open out a way for the imprisoned splendor, to grow, to manifest, to express itself in, through, and as each one of us and as our lives. And when we do, we're living from a different place. We're living from a different consciousness. And the way we walk through the world and the way we experience the world is much different. Because what happens then is we change our thinking and life changes. Not we change our thinking, we change our life. We change our thinking and life changes. Life with a capital L changes us. And it changes us because it grows us into a fuller expression of who we are. We move forth. We express in greater and greater ways. So back to the parable of the mustard seed. To first century ears, Jesus saying that the kingdom of heaven is like the mustard seed that a man sowed in his field that grew into this beautiful tree, the most beautiful and glorious of all trees, that then birds came and rested in. For those with eyes to see, let them see. For those with ears to hear, let them hear. Well, to first century ears, that would be very shocking because a mustard plant in the Middle East is a weed. So basically, Jesus is saying that the kingdom of heaven is like a dandelion. Right? What? No, it's not. It's not like a dandelion. It's not like a mustard tree. It's like the beautiful cypress trees of Lebanon. That's what God is. That's what the kingdom of heaven is. It's magnificent. It's glorious. And you're comparing it to a mustard plant, a weed, a common weed. It can't be right. But isn't it? Isn't the God that we know and we understand and we recognize here in this faith community ever present, everywhere, in the everyday, in the mundane, as well as the sacred? And who's labeling this a weed and this a tree? We are. The divine isn't. The divine could care less. And is it any less of a miracle, that growth process, that creative process that creates the dandelion or the mustard seed, is that any less of a miracle than a rose bush or a mighty cypress tree, or us. It's all the same creative potential. It's all that divine, organized potential expressing itself perfectly as the dandelion, or the mustard seed, or the rose bush, or us. Perfect, whole, and complete, just as it is, because it is life expressing itself. It is the divine expressing itself. Wow. So as we go about our daily lives and daily practice, recognizing that within each one of us, that within every situation and every activity and everything that we can see and perceive. When we recognize that, we understand that there is the unity. We recognize the unity, the oneness, the wholeness. There is no other. There is no duality. There's only one. One. Wow. And if we are not in awe, we are not paying attention. If we are not in awe, we're not paying attention. Because it's magnificent. It's amazing. And when we live from this place, we live from a state of grace. Not grace that, some capricious thunder god up there says, I'm going to give this to you and I'm not going to give this to you, so I'm bestowing graces upon you. No. It is the grace of pure potentiality, the grace of love, of infinite givingness. It is that amazing grace, how sweet the sound, that saves and sets us free. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was blind, and now I see. It is a knowing that we know that we know that we know that divine potentiality within us and allow it to express. And then we don't have to think about things. They come naturally because we're living in a state of alignment, of conscious union. And that becomes the demonstration. The conscious union becomes the demonstration. And all the other things are added unto us. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be added unto us. But if we're seeking the kingdom of heaven to add to the goodies, to add to the humanhood, we're not really seeking the kingdom of heaven, we're still seeking the goodies. And seeking the goodies is good. Not saying that it's not. I'm saying that that is wonderful, and good humanhood and wonderful humanhood is absolutely wonderful and magnificent and fantastic, and there's so much more. There's so much more if we open our eyes to see and open our ears to hear. Because it is our clarity of consciousness that opens the door for the divine to flow. And so it is. So let's come together in consciousness, and I invite the practitioners and ministers, the Ministry of Prayer for Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living, to stand and surround the congregation with their consciousness. These beautiful beloveds are always keeping you in prayer in every day, knowing the truth for you and for the congregation, knowing the truth of your wholeness, your divinity, your perfection, whether you are in the midst of the depths of the valley, the shadow of the valley, or whether you're standing on the mountaintops. They're here to support you, to celebrate, and to know the truth. So I invite you to go within. And recognizing that there is only one power, one presence, one infinite being, one divine wisdom that lives, moves, breathes, and has its being in, through, and as all of creation, both seen and unseen, all of life. For there is only one life, in full, glorious, eternal expression, ever and ever and ever, infinite, in perfect expression. In the beginning was the One, was the Word, and it brought forth all of creation in its image and likeness, in its perfection and its wholeness. There is no other standing opposed to it. There is only the One. that brought forth as the seed into form without ever having to think of why or how. Simply the one infinite presence. And as I recognize that there is only one, that it is all that there is, I recognize then that I am in alignment with it. That I am the divine emanation, impartation, and manifestation of Spirit here and now. That I am a spiritual being having a spiritual experience on this plane, in this time, in this place. For the place upon which I stand is holy ground, and the only time that there is the now, the ever-present, eternal now. And this moment, this now moment, is absolutely perfect. And as I recognize this is the truth of me, of my life, of my expression, I know it is also the truth of all of life, of all of expression, of everyone here, or everyone who ever hears these words, and everyone beyond these walls. We are one. One with the one as the one. Living, moving, and breathing, and having our life in the one life, as it has its life in the life of all. And so I recognize and I accept and I affirm the eternal, ever-present creation, the creative process, the life giving itself, the love expressing itself as all. I recognize the God seed within, the divine seed within, expressing itself, and so I open out a way. I open out a way for it to be, and I clear the consciousness of my mind. I simply allow any thoughts of doubt or negativity, fear, lack, or limitation to simply fall away and return to the nothingness from which they came. For truly there is only one. And it is perfect, whole, and complete. So I simply affirm it, I accept it, I claim it, I know it to be the truth. And I give thanks. I express my gratitude for this knowing, for this being, for this life and this love. And I release the word into the law, knowing that it is already done. I simply surrender it. I surrender it into the law, into the order, the harmony, the peace, the abundance of the universe. And I recognize that it is in this conscious union the demonstration has already been made. I give thanks, I let it be, and so it is.